Hey there, HorseCenter fans. Matt and I are back with another exciting edition of the show. Matt, we are talking Big A today.
We're talking a big weekend of racing at the Big A.
That's right. Cigar Mile weekend is upon us. We got two-year-olds too, Matt. We got the Remsen, we got the Demoiselle. Stay tuned, folks. We're going to preview the big races at the Big A, give our top picks right now here on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the extra special pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I am good, Brian. I know why it's extra special too, Brian, because we're talking the Big A Aqueduct, which is only about 45 minutes from my home. I wish I could be going.
Matt, you love Aqueduct. I know you love Aqueduct.
I do.
I've been to Aqueduct with you, and you're kind of the mayor of the Big A, and I love being there with you. I won't be there this year, with you this year, but we got to talk about this big day of racing, the Cigar Mile, and then there's those two-year-old races that I always like, whether they produce Kentucky Derby or Kentucky Oaks winners of late. Hey, I do remember days when horses like Alydar and Thunder Gulch were in the Remsen, but anyway, big two-year-old races and the Cigar Mile, Matt. Let's start with the big one, the Grade 1 Cigar Mile. Last year, Matt, who won this race last year?
Yeah, last year it turned out to be a very important race. It was won by a 3-year-old, which is something that happens now and then 5 or 6 times since the turn of the century. But it was Maximum Security, of course, that we're talking about, who capped off a great year and clinched, if he hadn't already, clinched the 3-year-old championship with a decisive win.
Absolutely. The Cigar Mile, I think, was the stamp of approval for Maximum Security, becoming an Eclipse Award winner as the 3-year-old champion last year. No Eclipse Award winners in the field this year, Matt. I'm pretty safe in saying, unless we're looking towards the future, you never know, because there are a bunch of good horses in here, and some horses who I think still have a ton of potential and could be big performers in 2021 if they stick around. The first horse I want to talk about, Matt, I think is the horse to beat. His name is Performer. 5 wins in a row, trained by Shug McGahee, Phipps stable homebred, owned by Phipps and Claiborne. This horse should be good. He is good. He missed nearly a year, but he's back, and his return race looked awfully good there at Belmont Park.
Yeah, Brian, as you said, lightly raced considering his age, but only one race with a stumble, and that was in his debut in a maiden special weight. Since then, he's won every single race and has looked better in each of those races. He's making his first try in a Grade 1 here, and this is a horse who I think you inferred, Brian, is one who could be getting better and who may continue to show that in the Cigar Mile.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, this horse was one of those horses that we were really looking forward to in 2020 at the close of last year. And one of the reasons why, of course, was that 4-race winning streak he was on, but the discovery at Aqueduct, over the track at Aqueduct, 9 furlongs last year, was a really nice performance because Tax was a good 3-year-old, and Tax gave him everything he wanted, and Performer turned Tax away. Boy, I'd like to say that myself, turning Tax away. Anyway, Performer was good, and now, after the time off, Shug had some big races planned for him this year, but unfortunately, physical setbacks have kept him away. Returned in October, a mile on off track, mind you, at Belmont Park, and he really did look good. He's a very good-looking horse. He's got tactical speed. And I do mention the off track, especially since, Matt, we're looking at a rainy forecast for Aqueduct on Saturday.
Yeah, that is clear, and maybe a significant rain. So we could be talking about a very sloppy track, not just a track that has a little bit of moisture in it.
Yeah, and a lot of these horses have run on an off track. Like I said, Performer last time at Belmont Park. Aqueduct is a different kind of track, though. It's a much deeper track. And I think that mile distance, the 1-turn mile on a deeper track, may hinder the horse who could be second choice, could be third choice. I'm talking about Firenze Fire. If you look just at accomplishments, Matt, there's no question that Firenze Fire is the most accomplished horse in the field. He is a multiple stakes winner in each of his 4 seasons on the racetrack, Matt. He's a 3-time graded winner this year.
Yeah, and it may be hard to say, but it's possible that Firenze Fire might be in the best form of his career right now under the care of Kelly Breen. He went out and had his best performance at Keeneland in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, where he narrowly missed the second place finish in there. Of course, he's done his best running in New York. I think some people's reaction to Firenze Fire might be that the mile is not a good distance for him, but he's got a few wins in big races, going a mile in a 1-turn mile in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Firenze Fire, if you look at his races at a mile in the past, have been good, but they haven't come recently, Matt. He's been strictly sprinting of late. Now for a while, and he's proven to be a very good sprinter, probably just a cut below the very best. But as you say, he was a very good third last time in the Breeders' Cup Sprint at Keeneland. Now a 5-year-old going on 6. It looks like Kelly Breen's going to bring him back next year. I just worry about Aqueduct versus Belmont for him, or Keeneland for that matter, because it is a deeper track, and I wonder maybe the mile against this bunch might be a little bit taxing for him down the lane. Sloppy track, he has won on a sloppy track, although his sloppy races recently have not looked quite as good. I don't know if he's better than ever, but he's been pretty consistent. And if you go back a few years, he was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile not all that long ago. I don't like him for the win, though, Matt, because I think Performer, horse we've already talked about, has a ton of potential. And then we got to talk about King Guillermo, maybe the most interesting entrant in this year's Cigar Mile, Matt. He is the only 3-year-old in the field, but he hasn't raced now for 7 months.
Yeah, I don't know if in using the word interesting, Brian, I would modify it in a little bit by saying he's interesting, but lots of question marks surrounding King Guillermo, who we lost. You mentioned the layoff. We last saw him in the Arkansas Derby, which was run in May this year. And he finished a good second behind Nadal, one of those Bob Baffert horses that we remember talking about a lot on the show. And he headed into that race at Oaklawn off of that big upset victory in the Tampa Bay Derby.
Yeah, now his races this year, there's only 2 of them, but they're excellent. And you can make a point that they're better than anything in this field, including even Performer's last few races. King Guillermo was absolutely superb in winning the Tampa Bay Derby by open lengths over Sole Volante. And then he was really, really good in a good Arkansas Derby division, won by Nadal. This was the division that we all said was the stronger division, and King Guillermo was a good second there. Of course, he was going to be in the Kentucky Derby back in September, but a fever kept him out of there. So we're finally seeing King Guillermo back. One thing I will say, or maybe a few things I will say about King Guillermo, he's got no slop or mud performance in his past performances, but there is breeding there to suggest that he can handle it. He also has a very good workout on and off track. His workouts are very good in general, and he's a horse who seems to like run well fresh, Matt. If you remember, the Tampa Bay Derby win was off a layoff. He's won on turf, so he's won on different surfaces. He's got speed and those good works, and this is a horse they always plan to run fresh anyway. He's just really fresh. I think he'll show a lot of speed in here. I think he's dangerous. In fact, I think he's probably the second most likely winner, only behind Performer.
Yeah, I agree that he's dangerous in this race. I think it's pretty likely that the winner of this race is going to come from these first 3 that we've mentioned. Prevailing sentiment by handicappers is often that you should avoid betting on a horse who is trying to do something that he has never done before. And we can certainly say that about King Guillermo in terms of facing older horses for the first time in a big dirt race like this. and coming up to New York to run on a racing surface like Aqueduct, which is known to be a very deep track and a tiring track, a difficult race course to run on off of a long layoff. Am I saying that King Guillermo is a throwout? No, I'm not saying that. I feel strongly that the winner will come from these top three.
Yeah, and for me, I really don't like Forenzi Fire's chances to win this race. So the top two for me, and my third would actually be the New York bred Mr. Buff. I might feel a little bit stronger about Mr. Buff than you do, Matt, but one of the things that you spoke about a little bit is Aqueduct. And if you look at Mr. Buff's record at Aqueduct, it is pretty spectacular what he's done at Aqueduct. He's a horse who clearly likes this racetrack. He's got a lot of speed. He likes an off track. So the combination of Aqueduct and an off track, and I think he's a very good horse. He's beating good horses in New York bred races, horses like Funny Guy. Mr. Buff is a good horse who's never broken through against Grade 1 open competition. He has won open stakes before, but I think it's a matter of time before he wins something. He's won a lot of races in his career. More often than not, they've come at Aqueduct. And, you look at the Whitney and you say, well, he just can't handle Grade 1 competition. This isn't Improbable or Tom's d'Etat or By My Standards. This is a slightly lower Grade 1, Matt. And I think Mr. Buff, with his speed, his liking for Aqueduct, and his liking for an off track, he becomes another horse to watch out for in the Cigar Mile. And then you got horses like True Timber and Mind Control, who I think are also interesting, especially if we're talking underneath in the exotics.
Yeah, Brian, absolutely. And I certainly am not as enthusiastic about Mr. Buff as you are. It just seems like he's got such a split in his form, dominating the New York breds, but just never being able to make any kind of significant performance in graded stakes company. Anyway, but in terms of underneath at a price, the horse I really like is True Timber. True Timber has only 4 wins in his career, but is still a millionaire, and that's an indication of the quality of fields races that he has been in all over the country, and the fact that he frequently gets that second or third place check, including having a little bit of a liking for Aqueduct and finishing third in the Cigar Mile last year. So True Timber is a horse that I like. Going to be a good price, 12 to 1, 15 to 1 or so, to get a piece of that trifecta.
Yeah, absolutely. True Timber, I'm looking at superfectas in here myself, and True Timber is an absolute must-use. True Timber hits the board most of the time. He's hit the board. I think his best race ever was actually 2 years ago in the Cigar Mile when he ran second in the Cigar Mile. So he's been second and third in the Cigar Mile the last 2 years. I expect another board-hitting performance from him. He can certainly run at Aqueduct. He certainly likes the mile distance. His last race at Keeneland was quite good, where he rallied for second in the Lafayette. So True Timber is a horse who's an obvious horse to me, and I think Matt's right. I think he probably will be double digits in here, but an obvious horse to use in the underneath spots. I also think Mind Control makes a lot of sense. Now, Mind Control, his recent form is definitely a little bit shaky, but you look at his Aqueduct record, another one, just like Mr. Buff, excellent Aqueduct record. He certainly likes a one-turn mile. He can run on an off track. I think there's an awful lot to like with Mind Control. I think he'll be higher odds than True Timber, actually, just because his recent form is not great. But I think this is the kind of spot where he could probably turn it around, coming back to a situation that he likes. We know how much back class this horse has. So Mind Control is another horse I'm looking for underneath. I can't completely throw out the other horses in the race. Majestic Dunhill has won on an off track. Bon Raison throws in some good races every once in a while. And Snapper Sinclair has some tactical speed, and he can run some good races every once in a while as well. So an interesting field top to bottom, Matt. But Mind Control, True Timber are 2 horses I want to use underneath, both at double digits.
Yeah, and reasonable strategy. I'm a little concerned about Mind Control because early in his career he was such a consistent performer, battling it out in every race, and his last 5 races concern me in that in several of them he just was not competitive at the end. But you're right, Brian. Going back to the winter at Aqueduct last year, he's got 2 big wins on the racing track.
Yeah, horse for course, Matt. Mind Control, you can come back to a place that you like, a track that you like, and Mind Control certainly likes it here at Aqueduct. So just like you with True Timber and me with True Timber to extent, he's a horse that I will definitely use underneath. My top pick is Performer. I have a feeling he'll be the favorite, but I think the other two, Forensic Fire and King Guillermo, should get a lot of play. I'm going to use Performer the most, but I will throw in King Guillermo and Mr. Buff as the horses who I think most likely to beat him. And then I am a little bit happy to use 2 double digits horses, True Timber, Mind Control. I'll throw in Forensic Fire there too, just in the underneath spots. Who's your top pick in the Cigar Mile, Matt?
My top pick is also Performer, and True Timber is my long shot key in the exotics.
I like it. All right, Matt. That's the Cigar Mile. That's the grade 1 Cigar Mile, 1-turn mile. The other 2 races we want to focus on today are 2-year-old races. They're both 9 furlongs, and there haven't been any big 9 furlong races for 2-year-olds yet this year. So this is always a little bit interesting. Early on the card at Aqueduct on Saturday, it's race 4 is the Remsen, a mile and 1/8, grade 2. And I did mention a few good horses that have won the Remsen over the years, but it's been a little bit a while. But I think in this 5-horse field, you got 4 very interesting horses, Matt. Let's start from the rail with Pickin' Time. We always look for that circle around the J with a horse like Pickin' Time, Matt.
Yeah, the good old days with the Circle J for the Jersey breds. Pickin' Time breaking from the rail in this 1 1/8 Remsen, which is an official Kentucky Derby qualifying race in the first level of 10 points to the winner. Pickin' Time has won his last 2 starts for Kelly Breen, who, as we know, won the training title at Monmouth Park this past summer and has been doing very well, actually, at Aqueduct in the winter meeting. Pickin' Time, son of Stay Thirsty, which is interesting, won the Smoke Lacken at Monmouth Park and then came back most recently going a mile to win the Nashua at Aqueduct. And in that race, they set some very fast fractions, a 1:11 for 6 furlongs, which doesn't sound that fast, but for the Aqueduct track is pretty fast. And Pickin' Time passed some tired horses there going down the stretch to win the Nashua. So he's got a little winning streak on the line, gets Jose Lascano, who is a pretty cagey rider and does very well at Aqueduct. And this horse is actually only the second choice in the Aqueduct morning line.
Yeah, I wonder about the odds here because I could see any one of the 4 getting bet. I think Pickin' Time could be the favorite off that Nashua win, a nice win over the track. But he might not be. He might still not get a ton of respect coming from New Jersey. Hey, he won his first out, but he didn't look like a graded stakes horse in his second and third race. But he's gotten better each and every time, and it's clear. The 6 furlong sprint, the Smoke Lacken you mentioned at Monmouth Park, and then the 1 mile Nashua last time. He has really gotten better now with 5 races under his belt. And I guess you'd have to say for that reason, he's the horse to beat. He's got a stakes win over the track. He's the most experienced horse. He's coming up to it in a very good way. He'll have to rally a little bit on an off track probably, so that's a concern. But a similar run to the Nashua puts him right in there. Now, the 2 has a win at 9 furlongs. The 2 is Known Agenda, a son of Curlin. This is a St. Elias homebred, Matt, for trainer Todd Pletcher. I like his debut performance where he ran second to the highly rated, highly motivated. And then I'm not so sure what to think about his maiden breaking performance last time, 9 furlongs.
Yeah, he did not win that by a big margin. But as you said, Brian, this is a son of Curlin, and he did something very important. He has run that 2 turns, run that mile and an eighth at Aqueduct, and with the connections of St. Elias, Todd Pletcher, Johnny V riding. He no doubt is going to take a lot of action at the windows.
Yeah, he could be the favorite, and I don't know what to think. I kind of feel like with his breeding, he could certainly move forward, and I think he will need to move forward. We look at the time of that race, 1:55 and 4/5, and you say, wow, is that slow? Part of that, folks, is Aqueduct. We see a lot of slow times at Aqueduct, so take it with a grain of salt a little bit. But on the other hand, it's slow enough where it does concern me, and he only won by a head. I think he will need to move forward. He's certainly eligible to do so as one of maybe the top 2 choices in here, though uh, um, I'm not strong on betting him, but he's certainly in with a shot, as is the number 3, Matt. And we already talked about a Jersey bred. How about a New York bred? This is a well-named New York bred, Matt, a son of Wicked Strong. This one is Brooklyn Strong. Coming up from Delaware. Delaware is his home base where Daniel Velasquez has him based. And he's won 2 of 3 now, including a stakes win against New York breds last time.
Yeah, and I think since Delaware Park closed, he's been training up in New York now. And that was a day when trainer Danny Velasquez actually won 2 big New York bred stakes races on that card. And New York breds do a great job competing in open company all the time. And in this field, the performance that he showed in that victory makes him a contender and likely to be the 3rd, 4th choice in this field of 5.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll get some play too. I think all 4 of the favorites are going to get some play. Brooklyn Strong might have the least speed of the lot, but he might be the horse finishing fastest. He does also have some breeding there where you think he might handle an off track. He'll probably have to pick up horses, but I tell you, if you ask me who's going to get 9 furlongs Saturday, for sure, I mean, he would be a horse that I would expect not to struggle, at least at 9 furlongs. The 5 horse, on the other hand, is a horse I worry about going 9 furlongs. His name is 10 for 10. He's the son of Frosted, who is quickly becoming one of the top first crop sires. And of course, I was a fan of Frosted over the years, Matt. 10 for 10. I tell you what, he looked good rallying in his debut performance when he was 2nd at Saratoga. He looked really good in breaking his maiden for trainer Shug McGahee, winning off by 8 lengths. And then he was the favorite in the Nashua, and Pick and Time beat him.
Yeah, when and earlier I talked about the pace in that race, and that was 10 for 10. 10 for 10 was out in front, setting that pace, going 1:11 at Aqueduct for 6 furlongs, and quite frankly, he looked really tired coming down the stretch in that race, which allowed Pick and Time to go by. It's possible that that race will put a little more conditioning into him. But as you mentioned, Brian, I am also concerned about him not only going the extra distance, but the 2 turns.
Yeah, and he actually is going to be my top pick, Matt. And you kind of talked about the reason. He ran 22 and change, 46, 111, which is very fast on that track at Aqueduct. Then he was pressured. If you look at the rest of the field, they just left the rest of the field behind in that Nashua. I don't know exactly what was behind him for sure, but the 3rd horse was more than 10 lengths behind 10 for 10 at the wire. But the biggest reason for me here is I think he's got the most speed in the race. In fact, I'm pretty sure he has the most speed in the race. He's got a really nice win over the slop where he broke his maiden by 8 lengths. I think controlling speed on the slop, yeah, I think he probably got a little bit more conditioning out of the Nashua. And I don't think he's going to be the favorite this time. He might even be the 4th choice in here. So on the lead in the slop, I'm going to try 10 for 10 as my top pick in the Remsen, Matt.
I'm going to go with Known Agenda as my top pick for our friend of HorseCenter, Vinny Viola.
Yeah, known agenda. He might be the favorite. He is a horse who I think will need to move forward, as I said, but got every reason in the world to believe he could move forward after that so-so maiden win, winning by a head last time. The other horse in the race is a long shot from Maryland. He's rallied in both starts. Maybe he'll like 9 furlongs. So another horse to consider. That's all 5 of them anyway in the Remsen. Then we go to the Demoiselle, which is the race before the Cigar. It's race 9, also 9 furlongs. Matt, the Grade 2 Demoiselle, and this conversation has to start with all daughters of Curlin. First of all, if you're a daughter of Curlin, you have a shot in the Demoiselle, and obviously the conversation starts with one in particular. Her name is Malathot, coming from the barn of Todd Pletcher.
Yeah, I thought they maybe were going to change the name of this race to the Curlin or the Curlinet in this Demoiselle, which is again a 1.125 miles, a Grade 2. This one goes as race 9 on this nice card at Aqueduct, and Malafat. It's hard to say anything but really impressive things about this horse. It's Todd Pletcher, Johnny V, 2 for 2 in her career. Both performances were eye-catching, visually impressive. She won the Tempted last time by almost 8 lengths. Not only is it Curlin, but the dam is dreaming of Julia. So you've got these fantastic Stone Street bloodlines on both sides. Was purchased for a little over $1 million as a yearling. And quite frankly, Brian, she's lived up to that $1 million price tag on the racetrack in every way.
Yeah, Malathot has been very good. I think she will be tested a little bit more in the Demoiselle, but it's really, folks, it's really hard to look past the heavy favorite in this one, as Matt alluded to. Yeah, Dreaming of Julia was a very, very talented, let's say extremely talented filly several years ago for Stone Street, and this is her daughter out of Curlin, and maiden win at Belmont Park, and then a win over the Aqueduct track last time and attempted for fun. She just looks like a potential star. The price tag she's living up to the price tag so far, and she will be a heavy favorite. Certainly the horse to beat in here. Cafe Society was third in that Tempted after a nice win, but she was third by more than 10 lengths. Getting back to the Curlins, both of them have potential. They both ran pretty well in their debut before breaking their maiden nicely last time. Talking about Millefeuille and Malibu Curl. One trained by Albertrani, that's Malibu Curl. Bill Mott has Millefeuille, and both of them could be becoming good horses as well, both daughter of Curlins.
Yeah, let's talk about Millefeuille, Brian, since we did such a horrible job on the show last week butchering the French name of Envoûtante, who went on to win that race at Churchill Downs. This is Millefeuille for Bill Mott, Judd Mont. Again, we've got some pretty regal bloodlines in here. Joel Rosario will be riding. Millefeuille was an impressive winner of her maiden special weight by 4 lengths back at Belmont Park. I'm not sure in this race, Brian, how many of them will actually show up on a very sloppy track with some some fancy pedigrees and things. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have some scratches in here. But Millefeuille has to be considered a major contender also.
Yeah, she looks like the second choice to me as well for trainer Bill Mott. Another one I do want to mention is Dollar Mountain Match. She made a turf debut for trainer George Weaver, very common for George Weaver trained horses and fillies. This daughter of Upstart, though, came back to win on the slop very nicely last time in her second career start. I think Dollar Mountain, especially on the sloppy track that we're suspecting we'll see on Saturday at Aqueduct, is one of the bigger dangers in here as well to the heavily favored Malathot. Matt, my top pick in here is going to be Maladot in the Demoiselle. I know she's not going to have odds that you really want to bet on, but she is my top pick.
Yeah, it's hard to go beyond Maladot in this race. I just want to throw in my long shot bomber that might get a piece of the exotics, and that's the number 7 horse Karamoka or Musha, who is 15-1 in the morning line, was a debut winner of a New York bred maiden special weight at a very big price, and raced greenly in there. This is one that I think could get better and maybe sneak in there at very big odds.
Yeah, Karamoka, Matt. Karamoka won that maiden special weight against New York breds in 114. So we would need a lot of improvement. But hey, Matt said she raced green. You never know. She's not quite for me. What else, Matt? We got the that's our preview and top picks for the biggest races at Aqueduct Saturday. But we got the Grade 1 Starlet out at Los Alamitos on Saturday. Los Alamitos is opening up. Looks like a showdown between the highly regarded Astute for trainer Richard Mandela against Princess Nor off her defeat in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies for trainer Bob Baffert. We got the Claiming Crown, Matt. Do you believe that this is the 22nd edition of the Claiming Crown already? That's going to be Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Do you believe it?
Sure. Why not?
22nd edition. I was a little surprised to see there's been 21 Claiming Crowns before. So look for that Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Also, Matt, I want to give a little hooray on a retirement well-earned to Almond Eye. Almond Eye was just terrific. Folks, if you watched it super early Sunday morning, Almond Eye winning the Japan Cup, becoming one of the sport's all-time leading earners. The 5-year-old mare won her second edition of the Japan Cup on Sunday, and she did it at the expense of a Triple Crown winner, a Phillies Triple Crown winner, both of them previously undefeated. They ran second and third in here in Contrail and Daring Tact, but Almond Eye did it. She goes out a winner, Matt. What a mare.
That's for sure. She didn't just go out as a winner, Brian. She crushed that field. It was an impressive performance over there in Tokyo, and what a way to end a career.
Yeah, going out a winner for sure. We're saluting Almond Eye here on HorseCenter. Matt, on that note, can I get a parting shot from you, my friend?
Yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. We're finishing up the year with the last big races. So I guess as we are in December now, we'll start talking about things like end of the year awards and looking ahead. And as always, I want to thank everybody for watching the show and our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Oh, don't worry, Matt. We got a lot to talk about here on HorseCenter. This was the Cigar Mile Preview Day show, but we have plenty to talk about in the coming weeks and months right here on HorseCenter. So, folks, don't forget it. If you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that little red button for us to do so. That helps us out a lot. I want to thank our sponsor as well as our producer. Brett Workman is the producer. Our sponsor is Derby Wars, the best contest site out there. Folks, we'll be right back next week with another great edition of HorseCenter. We'll see you then. Until then, have a great week.